Okay, welcome back to the second session, which we're going to start with some applications. So we see how this, what this can be used for. And you have Piotr and Barbara on this, and we start with Piotr, please.
So, Riverbench is a collaborative benchmark suite for RDF systems, specifically, usually for streaming RDF systems, but not only that. We collect data sets, we collect tasks, we collect benchmark results, and all of that in a fair way. Okay, sure. So the problem that we want to solve here is that benchmark results in papers are reported in a very irregular manner. So you have some kind of a table. It's very unclear what was the exact methodology. And if you want to make a state-of-the-art summary of that, you need to go through all these papers, dig it up, make an Excel file or something like this. It's very, it takes a lot of time. So the solution that we have come up here, is to report these benchmark results with nanopublications. The idea is that the person who ran the benchmark fills out a template in NanoDash so that we know what the benchmark was about, what we measured, and then it just magically shows up on the Riverbench website where other people can browse it, can see what was done, with which data set, what task was measured, and so on. And also others can discover this result also through the website, but also through the Sparkle endpoint, for example. So a quick demo of that. We'll see if it works. So that's the main page of Riverbench. If we go to benchmark results, we have the summary of all reported benchmark results. So that's a table with the task that was used. In this case, we were testing how much we can compress an RDF file, the profile, so the data sets that were used, what was the date, and if we want, we can see more details. And this page is automatically generated based on the contents of the nanopublication. So we poll the nanopublication network to see whether somebody has reported a new result. If yes, then we process it and we put it on the website in this manner. So that's entirely automatic. And with this, because a nanopublication is a semantic web document, we can navigate to, for example, the task, a specific version of it. And if we go there, we see the exact protocol that supposedly was followed by this benchmark. So if we want to report a benchmark result, we can click this and we will be simply taken to NanoDash. And in NanoDash, we have defined, okay. Can I just, oh no.
I can. So, but then
I will just show it. I will just publish anything, sorry.
That's my orchid now. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. So I will not publish anything. So we get a simple form where we describe what was benchmarked exactly. We link to the data if it's available, to the code if it's available, the results data set if it's available. And then we also link to the task and profile that was used from Riverbench, and these have permanent URLs. So that's how we get this link to how exactly was this benchmark. And we can also, for example, describe what was tested, so Apache Genati DB2, as in this example. So that's it regarding Riverbench. Maybe you have some questions regarding this?
We have an ontology for that.
Yes. Yes, we do. And it's an extension of the ontology. There is an ontology called IRAO. It was done by, oh yeah, it's not finding anything. Ontology. It's German keyboard. I'm a bit confused. Okay, so that's the one that we are using for this. It allows for describing benchmark results. We have extended it very, very lightly. If you want, you can go to benchmark results and click on the source, and you will be taken to the Nano publication that was used to report this result. And you can also see it as, let's say, a trick file. Okay, text. So we can find the exact sources for that. No.
And how to find it if I don't use this server?
You can just, yeah. So it's published to the network. You can query the network for Nano publications of a specific type that were not retracted. And there's an HTTP endpoint for that. There's also a Sparkle endpoint for this. So you don't have to go through our website. The website is static. It's not like a service or anything. So it's just generated with CI scripts. Anything else? Okay. So the second use case, it's also pretty simple. That's a taxonomy of RDF stream types. So a stream of triples or a stream of graphs, a stream of quads. In different places, people use different things. And I wanted to do a living literature review. So annotate papers or software artifacts that use an RDF stream in a given way. So let's say Apache Jena Riot library, it uses streams of triples and streams of quads, but not streams of graphs. And the problem is that literature reviews are very expensive to do. Like I also mentioned, you need to dig into many papers. And then when I do this literature review, I will not share this Excel file with, let's say, Tobias, who might also want to do a similar literature review. So Tobias has to do the same exact thing as I did. And that's just wasting scientist time. So the solution here is to use Nano publication-based literature reviews. People, anyone, can annotate papers or software artifacts with a Nano publication saying this thing uses this type. And then we can aggregate this automatically using Sparkle queries and see how many things out there in the world use this specific stream type. So this works a bit similar to Riverbench. It's a bit less polished. So I currently do not have like a nice UI to browse it, but you can go and browse the results with Sparkle. So if we query for that, we could see, yes, okay. So we could take this, for example. Oh, okay, the German keyboard will be a problem. Okay, yeah, I'm confused. Oh, okay. I think I would give up on this. So you can just trust me that it's there. So there are a few published. We also publish like a batch a dump of all the RDF stacks annotations that people have made. So you can download that, let's say, as a trick file. Okay, Fertig. I understand Fertig. Yeah, so there are a few Nano publications here. So for example, in this one, we say that the timestamped RDF name stream was used for, oh, that's tab info. It's a bit hard to read in this way. Yeah, it's used in this piece of software, Sparkle generate, I guess. Okay. So yeah.
How many different people had you contributing such applications?
One. That's me. So it is collaborative, so you can publish these Nano publications if you want to. I invite you to if you are interested in this topic, but so far it's been only me. It's still a bit useful. I mean, it's nicer than Excel. It's fair. Okay. So I think that's it.
Thank you.
Okay. So I will continue and talk about the activities of GoFair Foundation, who started, mainly GoFair Foundation started with Barend Mons and Eric Schultes in 2000. 14 having a workshop in Leiden on discussing how what needs to be done to make research more useful. And that was the Leiden workshop on a fair port. And the result of this, involving quite many different researchers, was this paper, the fair guiding principles, and many, I think up to 30 people involved in this paper. Published in 2016, went viral. I don't know how many citations each day, actually. But the key result is this, the 15 fair principles, which were seen as a guidance how to go fair, but actually it's not easy to implement fair. It was nice 15 sentences, but what stands behind is not always trivial. So GoFair Foundation was founded in 2018, and the mission of GoFair Foundation leads to guide towards fair implementations, develop innovations so to make this happen. And we do a lot of training and capacity building. I joined GoFair Foundation 2020, informally and formally in 22. And since 22, I have, together with Eric Schultes, trained over 100 people, and we are continuing on this. And one of the key activities was to operationalize the FAIR principles. So how to go fair in practice. And so we started to, well, it was much more complex, but at the beginning we had a very long questionnaire about the FAIR principles, how to implement this. But we come up with these questions here. These are around 22 questions, because the questions are about data and metadata very often. And therefore there are more than 15. But we also focusing on specific principles, not all of them, because some are current questions, and see, we are skipping A1 because we are going to the more specific ones. But we are try to make them really succinct, these questions, and then find a solution where we can gather the technology choices taken by a community of practice to implement the FAIR principles. So the FAIR implementation profile is such a list. And these technology choices are called FAIR enabling resources. And this is then the FIP ecosystem that involves this, what I have showed before, the data stewardship wizard as the entry tool for making it easy to draft this landscape of solutions taken by a community. And all is built on top of the FIP ontology, which is a very small ontology, but has a typology of resources there that are documented as nanopublication meta information. So we are not developing new technologies, we are documenting these technologies, and they are implemented as knowledge models in the data stewardship wizard. So this wizard helps us to create meta information about these technologies in an easy way, but the same could happen in Nanodash, because everything what is published from there or from that goes to the same Nanopub network. So these are all nano publications. And then we have a curation GitHub, where every new resource is documented as to be curated. And we have now many people contributing to it, and also improving this meta information so that others can learn about it. And everything is then searchable via Fair Connect, which is a website using Sparkle queries built by Tobias mainly. so that you can find this easier. And then we have also a journal that can be used from data stewards or writing small papers about these resources, going a bit beyond the nano publications. And this is the typology. You see here that these the grayish ones are fair-neighboring resources addressing each of the FAIR principles, but it goes also beyond. We talk about FAIR supporting resources for those that are supporting the fair-neighboring resources to be reused in different contexts. So this is the ontology, the FIP ontology. Mainly it says that the community declares the use of a neighboring resource for a specific FAIR principle. And for the main key concepts, the FAIR implementation community, the FIP declaration, the FAIR neighboring resource, we are using nano publications. And as you can see here, this is the data stewardship wizard that has different questions, and the questions have possible answers, drop downs, and these answers are fed by Nanopub queries. So you can find many possible answers, and these are our Nanopub applications. And if you don't find them in the drop down, you can create on the fly your own description of a resource, also in this environment. And then you can see that something has been created or not. Because this is a bottom-up community-driven network of resources. You see here that, for example, here we are documenting a registry produced or published by one user, but it has been created. And you see this is metadata about the resource, but this is the identifier for the resource itself. It's a persistent identifier that nano publication brings us. So it's really nice because you can quickly create a reference and meta information. And in more detail, you see what is behind here. It's not just the description. You see here all possible relations to other resources. So it depends on the software. This is an ADAP repository using ADAP software. It implements different standards. It targets specific data, etc. So this is all based on a metadata schema that we published. So as I said, it's a bottom-up curation of resources, and I like this very much, this feature of nanopublishing. So you create something, a user provides some input, and it's metadata about the resource. And then we have a curation pipeline in GitHub. So every new resource is a GitHub issue and discussed in GitHub, but also published then via curation approval, nano publication, so that it gets an icon like curated by the GoFair community. And you can do much more about it, but we use this way to document. We could also use this way to say that a specific authorized community recommends a resource. You can do a lot of these, or you can also say, well, I had no good experience with that, or we had this and this advantages. So you can communicate about this. And it is really nice and really used by many communities, more than 300 communities. We have 1,500 projects about FIPS and fair enabling resources. So it is used really to inform members of a community what this community wants to achieve to go fair. quite successful and implemented in many projects. But all based on nano publications. And I must also say, at the beginning, I didn't use nano publication. I used Wikidata entries. I wanted to use fair sharing directly. Now we are using fair sharing as input for meta information when a fair sharing resource exists. So this is implemented. So it is really interoperable with other solutions. So one of the possible applications. And while discussing here, I thought I'm still writing my PhD, and I thought that I will document my literature review, etc. This is my project. I'm not sure for today, but for the coming weeks.
Thank you. Any questions to Barbara's part?
Yeah.
Which organizations? The communities that.
Yeah, so I am very much based in the environmental research infrastructures. I have been part of the data team there for over 15 years. And I started with a GoFair on this. And the GoFair came to me and said, oh, what are you doing here? So I course enter LifeWatch. There are 26 research infrastructures actually in the NB community, but we have now the human science involved, the health domain, NIH from US. You can find that on Fair Connect. Yeah, it's a nice way to bring people together. It's not so much a technical infrastructure, it's more a way how to converge, because FAIR is not just having a standard, but having a common standard, at least in your domain. And for that is really good, and also for teaching, because people learn about other resources.
Good, thank you. Then I will take over again. And so I rearranged just slightly the program. I think what we're going to be talking next is templates, because for those doing your own project, once you have made it, once you understand a bit the templates, you can easily make a template and then easily add some new nano applications, and then you have some data to work with, and you can then in the afternoon see how we can query these nano applications. So we have in the previous session already used Nanodash and looked at these forms and actually filled them in. So we can just briefly go over to that again. So we have also here our tutorial project page. And for example, we were looking previously at this template. Oops, sometimes it doesn't click here. That where kind of a simple form is generated. I can just add a text and optionally a link or more and publish it. Now there is if you work with templates, you want to create your own or change the ones that exist, there's a small thing you need to know. When you are at such a template, there's this small circumflex character right next to the name of the template. If you click on that, you get to the nano publication that defines the template. And that's probably one of the easiest ways to figure out how templates work. If you want to create your own, to just look at some that exist. So here you see how they're structured. They're all as formulated or expressed as triples as well. So the nano application templates that create forms that allow users to easily create nano applications, and these templates are themselves expressed in nano applications. So you can use all the ecosystem and the tools around it as well. An easy way to create a new template is then to go to one that that is maybe similar to the thing you want to do. And then what you can do here is to go here and say edit as derived nano publication, which will then open this template in a template. So there is a template for making templates. And this is now relatively complex because, yeah, it is a more complex issue than just polishing a single triple, for example. But we can then kind of briefly go through the important parts here. Most of the things are actually optional, as you see. But you already see that here at this point, the triples are defined, and we have these 3 triples. And then there is some more additional information you can place on all these different parts. But first, I would like to briefly go back to the slides and here point you to this nanoapplication template ontology. So that's the ontology that defines how we can define templates. And while going now over here and briefly show you around here, so it's a regular OWL ontology, OWL REF ontology, and there's some instructions here that I think helpful for me to briefly explain how nanoapplications or how nanoapplication templates are built up. So maybe a quick note on how this relates to Shekel. So I was originally wanting to define this in Shekel, but there was some kind of partial discrepancy. And well, yeah, so that's why I define it as a new ontology, but a mapping between Shekel and this, hopefully a bidirectional mapping, is still something that you plan and that yeah, doesn't look too complicated, but the requirements are slightly different. So in general, I think Shekel, if you know about Shekel, takes a bit more a kind of a network point of view in the sense that you define things like focus nodes. So in first step, you define what nodes in this network your Shekel checker should look at, and then you define what kind of the network environment basically of these nodes has to look like. What we need to do here is kind of related, but not exactly the same. For these Nanopub templates, what I want to do is to be able to say we have a given number of triples and they need to have this structure. So it's a more triple-centric view, where, for example, I want to say I have 3 triples and subject should be this and this, predicate this and this, object this and this. So this is related to what you can do with Shekel, but not exactly the same. So it's not that we have kind of focus node and then we do some restrictions on it, but we first say we have 3 triples and they behave as such. So that's a bit of the kind of historical motivation. And then to show you around this ontology, basically you have here the basic information that the first thing you would do is to declare something to be an assertion template. So these are the templates that let you define the assertion of an application. And as you will see, there are correspondingly also provenance and publication info templates, which work in the same way. They're typically a little bit simpler, but the principles are the same. And then the additional minimal information we have is we give it a label. That's what is shown then also in this list of templates. We can give it, or we should give it a description with some more information about it. And then we link to the statements. And this is done with this anti-has statement. In this case, there's just one, but yeah, there can be more, of course. And for the statements, we use a regular RDF verification with RDF subject, predicate, object. They're now in a different order because they were like sorted alphabetically, I believe. But in this case, we say the object is, so the sub part here is already taken from an application. So this would be a local namespace that is minted in the Nano publication. So here you would say the object is this local label thing. So we're going to define more what it is just below. The predicate is RDF as label because what we're doing here is a minimal template where you can label things. So there's a lot of the word label here. And the subject is example.org. So as you see, these subject predicate objects, they can be just directly pointed to the URIs that should be there, or they can point to such local things where we can define more what they are. In this particular case, we say it's a placeholder, and we say in this case, it's a literal placeholder. And if you move down to this ontology document, you see many more things that most of them should be self-explanatory. Like if you go to placeholder, you see this is a class and it has subclasses like a value placeholder, which is a placeholder that can stand for an IRI or a literal. You have literal placeholder or a URI placeholder. And here you have the things that we come back to also: guided choice placeholder, restricted choice placeholder, and some others. So the guided choice placeholders and the restricted choice placeholders, I will come back to. Both of them will give you kind of a drop-down menu where you can select. The restricted choice placeholder, you need to, when you define a template, kind of exhaustively define or restrict what can go there, either by explicitly listing the types or by pointing to another Nano publication where these types are listed. So this can be potentially a long list, but it's kind of closed and fixed. Whereas guided choice placeholder also allows you to give some suggestions, but basically allows you to enter any URI. But it also allows you to connect to external APIs or internal ones, actually, to query other Nano publications and or to query external endpoints, which is a very powerful feature. For example, I will show you later, you can connect to Wikidata, so to allow easy Wikidata lookup. Anyway, so there's more information in this ontology, which if you know how to read such documents should be more or less straightforward. But this is a minimal example, and it gives you this assertion in an publication that you can, you can put these triples there, and then it becomes a working template. So you have a link here. You see what it looks like in Nanodash. So sometimes it's confusing that it doesn't show all triples. So in that case, be sure to expand here. And now here, just check into that. Yeah. When you look at one of these, Nanodash recognizes it's a template, and it does show this. Use this template button, and you can also find it in the list that I've shown you before. So let's just look at what this almost most minimal template looks like. So I created this assertion part here. It says example.org. It doesn't have a label, so it just makes up a label as best as it can. For this one, we gave it a concrete label in the triples I showed. I didn't explain that, but so we can just give these elements labels that then the UI should show. And this one was now this literal placeholder, so we can now write anything we want, right? So we could say here, this is just an example. Oh, now I'm logged in as Barbara again. Okay, I'm going to switch over for when I'm going to actually publish stuff. I'm going to switch over to my account. Yes, which maybe should be, well, let's first go back to the slides. So this is the same minimal template, just for your record. You have here also the links that I've just shown. Now, this is how you can connect to APIs. So if you want to do this in your own project, and I will just show this briefly and based on an example. And now let me switch over to my own account on Nanodash. Yeah, here. So we can have a look at this one. For example, here we have defining a new class. This I've briefly shown before, like kind of test class. I can add all these things. And here the superclass one is a guided choice placeholder that allows you to query Wikidata. And it also queries the Nano publication network itself. So this one is by me because I created it in another Nano publication. What happened to my screen? Hold on. Yeah, I made, I don't know what key combination I did now. So we can go here. And we see that I defined an ABC class in another example I published. But this one is now found here because it's looking for all things defined in applications that were tagged as classes. All right, but I also, if I type ABC again, I see now they couldn't be loaded. Come on. I don't know what key combination I did before. Let's try again. Okay, I think it was some network problems. But here you see it's querying Wikidata as well. So I could do American Broadcasting Company if that's what I meant.
Can you show this? How
Yes.
you
How it's done in the
defined it?
template?
Yeah.
Yes. So if you go here and have a look and expand this, you're going to see how it's done. Come on. So first, we have these different statements here, right? One after the other. And then at some place, which one was it? The superclass, right? So that's the statement we looked at. So we say the class, the thing we introduce, subclass of, and then superclass. So this is also an entity that was defined in the Nanopub application. This is kind of a local identifier. And further below, we say superclass is a guided choice placeholder. Actually, maybe I can show it to you in edit mode. So it's more like what it looks like when you're actually doing it yourself. So I can do edit as derived Nanopub application. So you can do the same. I can pick any template and press edit as derived and change it in the way you like and publish it, and then you have your own version of it. So yeah, here that's what you do, right? So you can add URIs here, full URIs, then they point to something external, or you just put a URI suffix, and then it will introduce something locally. And you can then define what these local things are a bit further below, and we can just go through some of these other parts separately. What I said here is superclass is a guided choice placeholder, right? So that's how I do it. Like when I do it, I go here and I pick from all these local parts I've introduced, and here I can now choose a number of different types of placeholders, and I can tag it in different ways. So the guided choice placeholders here, right? So that's how it was added. I can remove it again because I don't need to add the same triplet twice. And then further below, I wrote these two things. So has possible values from and this. So this one is querying the existing Nanopub network. And this is kind of an obsolete but still working URI with this Perl.org Nanopub API. The newer one is the one you're seeing in the slides as well. Go back to the slides. So these are the ones you can be using in this text field. So you can do this. You can, oh, no, I cannot. Okay, I cannot select. You can do this first one, exactly how it is here. This is actually the same that you see there, but you also see that you can later, once you have seen how to create your own queries, you can actually replace it with your own, and then it will work. So this first URI, w3id/mp/l nanopub query, it's kind of a generic URI that if you actually give it to the browser, it will redirect to one of the instances. But tools like Nanodash know this is just generically for any Nanopub query instance. So it knows several of them, and so it can check several of them to execute it. And actually, by default, currently what it does is it shoots the query to 2 instances, and as soon as it gets the first result, it shows it. So which makes it more reliable and stable. And these different instances are also, they're still a bit hard-coded partly, but they're also published as Nanopub applications. So in the near future, you can set up your own query instance. You can publish it about it as an application, or the instance itself can publish itself. So then it's known that there's a new query instance you can use. And well, if you trust it, so this part was also part of the whole trust network I can talk about more later. You have then more query instances at your disposal. And that's part of the whole strategy and design to make it scalable and at the same time decentralized and reliable. That's what you can do. You just copy, and this is a thing that also, again, the UI can support better, but you just copy this part and it will allow you to find things you or somebody else introduced in other Nanopub publications. You can also be more specific. This particular query allows you to give a type, so you can type it to whatever URI, right? For example, for Piotr, you can type it to these benchmark results, and then it will only show in this autocomplete dropdown things of type benchmark result, right? And that's just the simplest case. You can just use off the shelf, but as I will show later, you can use your own query. You can make your own Sparkle query. The only thing you need to make sure is that it has thing and label in its response. So that's just the thing Nanodash is looking for. So then the thing is the thing URI, and the label is the label the tool can show to the user. And you can connect to Wikidata or other third-party endpoints. You can put any URL there. And what Nanodash is doing, it's taking the string the user entered. So in my short demo, it was like just ABC. It's taking this and appending it to the end, unless there's a blank space somewhere in the query you added in the URL, and then it's entering it to the blank spaces. So you can also put your own custom endpoint there. And the only thing is the result has to somehow conform to a way that Nanodash understands. So there's a number of ways. So if, I know, your return format is somehow not understood, there might be a few lines we have to add in Nanodash just so it knows it can expect the JSON, for example, or it's able to process JSON, but it needs to know what things it needs to look for, what structure it should expect. And well, existing APIs are not really standardized or aligned with that. So that's a bit of custom code that needs to be added. But it can deal with Sparkle endpoints as long as you make Sparkle queries that correspond to these simple patterns. It can deal with Wikidata and a number of others. So that is how we can do that. And so if now for your small project, for example, if you go back to this thing, what you could do is, for example, if you want user to publish new kinds of things, you can, for example, start with this named individual, defining individual template, which here now allows the user to choose, again, with Wikidata by default, any kind of class. Well, what you could do is you go there and make it your own. You can go there, say add it as derived nano publication. And now, for example, let's say we want to, I don't know, what could I do? So defining a new event, for example, or I don't know, do you have any other example that could be doing here? We could just say event. So we could just say here, okay, with this template, we can define, events, let's say. And then here, we could put it to a different group in the publish page. Importantly, what we might want to do here, you can make it an unlisted template, which means it will be fully available, but not listed under publish or other views. So people will not find out about it unless you point them to specifically. So we can do that. And then we could specify default provenance. So we can point to a provenance template, which work similarly as assertion templates. If you want to say that this application by default should have this kind of provenance, for example, with prof was derived from, or pointing to an organization, or pointing to the user who is creating it, or whatever kind of further metadata about the assertion you might want to give there. You can point to required pub info. For example, if you want to say there's always needs to be this triple in the pub info that states that this has this license, or that it's kind of in association with this project, or whatever you want to. So this will then be loaded and shown there. You can change the namespace. So by default, it's using a namespace in this w3id/mp/ and then your Nanopub hash, which will also make sure it always will resolve correctly to Nanodash at the moment, and that the content negotiation works and everything. But you can make it under your own namespace, your own kind of my own domain.com/something. And then this is the URI that your Nano applications will have. And it will be up to you to configure your server if you want them to be resolvable. So that's something for your first Nano applications you don't need to worry about, but this is a feature we have here. Then I'll be talking a tiny bit about types. So here you can put any URI that you want your Nano application to be tagged with as a type. So for example, you could say, okay, it's benchmark result. So you have a URI either from Wikidata, or maybe you make your own and you put it here, and then every Nano application created with this template will have this tag, so you can use to filter it. And it's also used by the tools like the registry and Nanopub Query to compartmentalize nano publications. So for example, Nanopub Query will have for every type, it will set up its own Sparkle endpoint. So you have one Sparkle endpoint that has only nano applications of that type, which makes it much easier and faster to run queries because you don't have all the other nano applications you don't care about. You can do a label pattern. So you can, for example, say here, I want to say it's event, colon, and then the name that I write down here. Then in this case, we probably wanna have this event. I'm just making this really as an example. So we could look up Wikidata what event is, but now just doing event. Then maybe all the rest I want to leave. So if I want to add new statements, I can make them here. So I could add a new statement and say statement 5. Now, as these are triples, they don't have inherently an order once they're created. So if you want them, of course, the triples, you probably do want them to be in a particular order. So the easiest is just kind of a hack to have these local names to be in a way that when they alphabetically sort, they will be in the right order. Or you can also, a bit further down, explicitly assign the statement order value. So that's a bit, not the most user-friendly way of doing it, but yeah, that's how it works. Also, what I want to improve in this template is that you don't have to separately include statements, but currently you have to. So you have to say this assertion now includes statement 5 if you want to have a statement 5 to it. Yeah, what could we do here? Statement 5, for example, we could do comment. If you want to have like an additional comment, right?
It means the full block.
So this assertion here, yes. So this a thing these assertions do is we use the same identifier that the Nano application used as assertion, also as identifier for the template. So in a way, the assertion of this Nano application template, Nano application, is the assertion. So we could also, that's kind of a design decision back when I did it, we could also have introduced here a new identifier and saying, I don't know, in this case, local colon template. But so the assertion means the Nano application assertion, which is in this case also a template. So in here we are saying the assertion, so thereby the template has this statement.
Confused. Specification is not assertion is not set of, but not multiple. So we use it to name the block of multiple, which together make up the content of the.
Yes, so this kind of, now this is here not RDF terminology.
Yeah, but there's so much RDF background.
Yeah, do they call it as what in RDF terminology is it the term assertion as well? For what? For triple. Okay. Yeah, but this is so this is an application terminology. And here, well, we have already description, so I'm kind of leaving out. But so you could here have another the comment or any other relation. I'm leaving that out here for simplicity. So don't make this too long. I haven't pressed it yet. Remove this again. We can also group statements. So then we could say here a group statement. Oh, somehow it's clicking as well. And then we could say the group statement that includes other statements up there. And then I could, this is only helpful if I want to make a number of triples together optional or together repeatable. Because this is what you can do here. So this statement 4 was marked as optional, the C also. We can now make it all on. Additionally, we can also make it repeatable. So we could have several see also relations. I think that will make sense. So we additionally make it repeatable. So we can make simple, optional, repeatable. The simple is actually not needed because it's just a default. Yes, and then the statement order value allows you to order them. Then here you state all the things, all the local elements, what they are. So class is a guided choice placeholder. That is similar to what I showed you before, where I can put these URLs. Description is a long literal placeholder, which is the same as a literal placeholder, except that it shows a text area instead of just a text field. Another kind of small thing that we're not going to be able, we don't have time to go into, but when you're typically, or many nano applications that kind of define something new, they have one thing that they introduce. As in this case, introduce a new individual or a new event, and this thing can then be labeled as an introduced resource, and that's also what's then shown with kind of a yellow border around. And this is important information. For example, the application knows then if the application as a whole doesn't have a label, it looks up the introduced thing and takes the label from there if it's present and can use that to show that this is an application. And there's some other uses of this. Basically, that you formally know what is the main thing in an application. Not all applications introduce a thing, but those that do have this labeled here. So in this case, you see individual is an introduced resource. It's also a local resource, meaning that it's expected to be such a short suffix that is then minted in the application namespace. And it's also a URI placeholder, meaning it's a text field where you can add things. If you don't put this, it will just be whatever the publication URI is /individual. So we'll just reuse this local name. If you make it a placeholder, it will allow you as user to add something. Name is a literal placeholder. See also is just a URI placeholder. Actually, in this case, because we don't want it to be able to be, if you just a URI placeholder, it would also be possible to refer to an internal one. But actually, we want to enforce that it's an external placeholder. So we can put this.
So you would advise to always use
that?
It's only
most of the times it's either local and then you want to label it as local or in external. And well, there might be some cases where you want to allow for both. But I kind of think of a good example. Probably it's best to use external placeholder. Then it will not allow you to add an internal one. And now class, the guided choice placeholder, has now two things. First, it says it has this possible value. So that's the thing that shows up right away before you type anything in the dropdown. And then it has these values from APIs. That is the same thing I showed you before. So this is the find things, the old one that is equivalent to the new one I have on the slides. And then it can connect to Wikidata. So maybe I can briefly here actually use the new way of doing things, right? So that we have here just to show. We could here specify even the type. We don't do that. We just do this. So this is the way we can add here. And then all the things we use here, we can give labels to. So this is just kind of convenience for the user, right? So that Nanodash and possibly in the future other tools know how to describe it. Sometimes you can have, what you can do is this simple pattern that you have like a space, hyphen space. In that case, only the first part is used as the main label and the rest is used as description that when you hover over it, it will show additionally as a description. So that's just a simple convention. And now we can have a look what we don't need anymore. There was like this class. The class actually we don't have anymore. So we remove it here. Clicking doesn't work.
actually, if you
We should also remove it up here, actually. Yeah.
if you forget then and you want to publish it, it reminds you that something is not correct. So it helps. It's actually very good because
if you would now here leave this one in, let's say the class, now I've already moved it. But if you put something here that doesn't even exist, here I think it doesn't even allow you to do that. But yeah, if you forget to remove some triples here, so it's referring to something up there that's no longer exists, then it will tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's nice because it can become very complex when you create something like that.
And then you can do prefixes, which is something that's not so much needed anymore. So you can say it's always, let's say, has always HTTPS / kind of orchid.org in front, and you only ask the user to add the last part of the orchid. But for this part, you can actually also do agent placeholder. So if you want to have something where you have an agent, I can maybe. No, the agent placeholder, then it will give you a drop down where you can search for other users, for other people. Exactly. You can also paste in the orchid, or potentially other things, but currently it's just orchid. Now let's see whether we have everything or whether it will complain. We can publish. It does complain because see, this one we have still here. That doesn't exist anymore. Remove it. When I notice kind of a weird error sometimes, I have to investigate. So it's kind of and was there another one? Here, thing. We don't have this anymore. Now it's okay. So this is like a super annoying. Was it that? Yes. So actually, yeah.
Before you publish, I mean, governance and publication info is actually what just makes the non-publication special.
Yes.
Right? So, can you just explain where?
Yeah, sure. So this is now, provenance and publication info of the template, right? So I can now say who created this assertion, basically this template. So by default, it's just telling me it's attributed to myself, and there's a number of other possibilities here.
So it's about the template. It's not about when you use the template.
I know this is further up, exactly. So here we say,
Okay.
what about the template? But we can do it up here. So this is, here you don't have yet a nice lookup. This is something I should improve this template. But here you can state, that's what I earlier said, right? You could state the default provenance. You could put the URI of the provenance template and of the pub info. So these should also be guided choice placeholders actually, so I could kind of type and find it. But this is currently
it takes by default default provenance template.
Yes. Well, by default it takes this one, which just says that's just a user. It just says attribute to the user. Same here, the publication. So provenance is always exactly one template because an assertion always, the reasoning behind this, an assertion always has one provenance because there's only one way how it was generated, right? And if there were several identical ones coming from different places, there should be separate nanoapplications just pointing to different places. So that's kind of you can find you can find reasons why it might be nice to have several provenances as well, but for simplicity, I think this makes sense to restrict it to just one.
When I say here, use here another one, if you take another one for the provenance, that's just to document about the creation of this Nanopub template. It's not.
Yes, this is just for the template. So when you use the template, it will not have an effect on this. So this is up there, right? So you define in the template, so it has this default provenance. So that's what then going to be shown to the user. But here we could, for example, say that somebody else has contributed to that too, right? So like I could say
if I want to create our own provenance templates,
yes, you can do that.
Have to go to the provenance templates, create as derived and change it there, or create one from
Yes.
scratch.
So you could
that I can implement or link to from here.
Yes. Yes. So you can show you there's another template where you can create new provenance templates, and then we'll show up here. So there's a few recommended ones. They're normally the ones you want to be using. And then, there's some that kind of just stuff people tried out that doesn't make too much sense that will show up here too. And something that can be used frequently is example. You can label stuff as an example. So it's basically meaning it's kind of a test Nanopub application that you wanna you use for example demo purposes that you don't want people to take seriously necessarily. So I'll put that here. So that should make you even freer to just publish stuff and try it out. And then if we now press publish, sorry, publishing doesn't work. Yeah. We can get back to the other thing then. But so now we can use this template. And now we see what happened. It seemed it worked. It's an individual. It's an event. So we can now publish events with this, right? So we can make here my test event. So say it's called my test event. Just test. We leave it out. So now here I could say, right? It loaded the default template because it didn't have another one for the provenance, etc. We can again say it's an example. And we can publish it. Oops. Later we can actually check out that this is now, we can now use this. We can, for example, to search here. So I haven't shown this yet. Oops. That we have query possibilities here. It's just a simple search we can use, but there's others that can be custom made. And now we see the template shows up as well as my test event. And you see here, they also have it in these kind of tag boxes or whatever you want to call them. So this means this is now assigned as an allocation type. And these are the ones that also end up in separate Sparkle endpoints, for example, as we can see later. So here we have just one, but then we can get more.
So for me, it would be interesting to know how you can restrict to the namespace. So it might be possible to restrict those.
Like the query, restrict the query to a namespace. Well, this is then basically kind of a Sparkle question because this is then all Sparkle based. You can do that with a filter. It will not be very efficient, or I'm not sure whether you can make it necessarily efficient. Because you have to basically get everything and then filter out by prefix. So because I think the Sparkle endpoints are optimized to and they index full URIs. And that's, I think, as far as I know, I'm not sure any Sparkle endpoint will provide you efficient prefix filtering. But if there's not too many, you can filter by prefix. Yeah, but maybe that's something we could actually index also better. So for the future, it would be easy to extend the Nanopub query to figure out have some default ways of figuring out prefixes.
I don't know. Sometimes you could show how you created for me the website of all GFF events. We created GFF events.
Yes.
W3AD event.
Yes.
Yeah. Using a specific namespace.
It wasn't we just introduced also type like here.
Yeah.
I think we have it here somewhere.
You were then searching over the
how are they called again?
GFF event.
Chief, wasn't it 3 something?
3 PFF, yeah. 3 PFF.
That was it, right? So
yes,
here.
Yeah, here.
This is the query that you mentioned. And here indeed we get all these queries. And so that's kind of the query topic that we can look into later. If you go here to the definition, you see the allocation that introduces that. So you see that, what we're going to look into later. So it's not just that you can express the templates as Nanopub applications. That's kind of the data entry, right? The way that helps in this particular case for manual entry. Of course, you can also have the automated one through the libraries we talked about. So you can express templates in applications that give you these forms that facilitate data entry, and this is kind of the other side of the round trip. So this is for querying. You can create Sparkle templates, or either kind of just finished Sparkle queries or templates that have placeholders in them, and they then can be executed, for example, in Nanodash or wherever. They basically create APIs that you can then can do. So this is just, we just filtered by, wait, you can have a look at the thing again. What do we do here? I don't exactly remember. We did some string replacement here. Yeah, I mean, you can do that kind of thing in Sparkle. You have to be just a bit careful because it can be inefficient because you have to first go through all of them and then filter them because this is not directly working on the index that the Sparkle triple store has.
There's a list of all queries. Where is that?
You can now find it here. That's a relatively new or very new feature. If you go to query,
Yeah.
you have here all the queries. There's currently not really, I plan to do some better sorting. I mean, this for the templates is a bit better, but also needs still improved, where you can give them these kind of tags that they're sorted by. And something similar or better I will do here. At the moment, it's just all the queries that have already been published. So for example, you can also do full text search here, for example. So this is basically what's behind this here. But get FIP super communities is something that I also did for the FIP parts, so you can execute them here. Yeah, so that's then will be the next session.
Is there already some idea how you can help people to write Sparkle queries with Nano? You have just to do it. So is there a way we can
A way to help write Sparkle queries? Yeah, I mean there are many approaches to that, right?
Bricks, putting it together. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's lots of existing work. I mean, there's now a lot of work on Sparkle generation from text with LLMs, so that we could connect to. Wikidata has some sort of kind of editor that allows you to construct Sparkle queries without actually writing Sparkle. So yeah, so I mean, the short answer is no, I don't have anything specific in mind. And the bit longer answer is I think it would be interesting to see which of these we could incorporate. I don't think I think there's so much available that it's just going to be about figuring out which one fits best and somehow include it. Yes. Right, I think this is then my last slide I had on that. I basically showed you already. So just briefly if you want to make your own provenance or pub info template, it's the same thing. So here on the publish, and this list is kind of by frequency. So the biggest groups are first, which is kind of sometimes useful, but also something that needs to be improved at some point. But you see here on the templates, you have 3 different options. The assertion template is the one we've briefly looked at. And then very similarly, a tiny bit simpler because some things don't apply, the publication info template, where in the same way you can define publication info. And as before, for example, if let's say you want to do something similar like example, but a bit different, you can click on the small circumflex thing. Then you get to the Nanopub that defines this pub info template, and then you could change it in the way you like it, edit as derived. So you could, for example, here change the URI to have a different one here instead of example Nanopub. If you want to tag your applications with something different, and define a pub info template for that. Yeah, any other questions with respect to that? Other than that, we will be at the individual projects again, so we can just kind of help you with that or discuss that. I'm just checking time. We're supposed to end the morning session 12:30, so we have like 30 minutes. So we're almost on time with respect to that. Good, then I will stop the recording here and we can help you with projects.
You have also made a video of